Hi, I'm Pete, and I love digging. Yep, I do. Yesterday afternoon I started and I dug, I don't know, 150 foot of trench here. Took out some really big rocks, but really didn't have much of a problem at all doing that. That's a pretty big one. That's a big one. There's a lot of big rocks going up this hill that I'm on. I call them sleepers. They'll lay lateral and you got to really work at them. There was another sleeper there. I got most of it out. Luckily, I'm coming up at a pretty steep slope, so I can deal with a little bit of that. Look at the size of this rock. It goes in over there and in over there. Dug alongside of it every which way. Too big for me to get out. I think I'm gonna have to go around it, find the end of it and circle around it. While I'm in here though, I wanted to show you because you can see the roots on the pasture plants really well now. Here's a good shot. There's roots all the way down into there, which is probably about 3 feet, 2.5 or 3 feet from the surface. Actually, this one goes down to 4 feet or so. The topsoil to subsoil line is really pronounced too. You can see topsoil, that's probably 10 inches. And then it goes to this red, more clay stuff. Well, I guess there's nothing to do about that rock but to leave her lay and work it around here. I've been working along for about 3 hours here. Let me just bring you up to speed. I hit a giant rock there, so I went around it. Then I hit a giant rock here, so I went around that. And aside from the giant rocks that were too big for me to get out, there were other less giant rocks like these that I could get out, but it took me a while to get each of them out. A wise man knows when to cut his losses. I know now's the time to cut my losses. I'm gonna sell the excavator, probably sell the cattle, and sell the farm. I'm kidding. Yeah, I'm kidding. But I do have a plan B. It just represents some wasted work. I'll call it practice with the excavator, digging that trench that hasn't worked out. Let me give you an overview of what I'm trying to do here. This is the winter pasture, of course, and I'm going to put sub-drainage in here, and I have a couple different design types that I'm going to use in here, but I'm not even starting on that until I get the outlet pipe run. And the outlet pipe's going to go from the end of the sub-drainage here, and it's got to make its way down to this wet part that I've got fenced off here in the field. That's very low. I got lots of slope to get there. The reason that this area is fenced off is because it's wet for most of the year. Whenever I would drive on it with the tractor, I'd leave ruts. So I said, fence it off. I am a big proponent of fencing off wet areas like this and letting nature take its course. It's also the way our farm water filtration works, the swale that runs diagonally down our farm. Now our farm sits at the very top of both the Cayuga Lake and the Chesapeake Bay watersheds. To me, that's a great responsibility to discharge clean water from our farm. So the way to make the water clean when you've got animals on the pasture is to slow it down and to allow plants to filter it, plant roots and such. So that's why this is going to be my discharge area for the sub-drainage, because it's lazy. The water doesn't go anywhere. It does eventually make its way, I think, across the road. There's a culvert, but it's very slow. And hopefully it'll just percolate into here. It's kind of like a detention basin. But what about my original problem? This mess. The answer to that is I'm going to start all over again. Yep, I have a better area. But driving this, I ain't going to get there anytime soon. It goes about 0.3 miles per hour. And that's on fast mode. Oh, no, goes a little bit faster in Rabbit. Oh, you guys just got to come and see what I'm doing, don't ya? All lined up. This is a self-leveling laser transit. It's got a laser in it that whirls around really fast. It's self-leveling, so it creates a level plane at this level. And this is a sensor. When it's continuous tone, I'm on the level. So I use this stick with measurements on it to make sure I got proper slope. And the way I use it is I'll start at the top of the trench here, part I first dug. Let's get down to a finished portion. Set it, and then I can draw it along the trench and make sure I got slope. She's good so far. It's day 2. Grease things up before we take her out. Oil's still full. Well, we know it doesn't burn oil. Fuel tank in this is about 6 gallons, and that's what it burns in 8 or 9 hours worth of digging. Hydraulic level is good. The machine has to be in a specific hydraulic position to check the hydraulic oil because, of course, depending on the position of the cylinders, you're going to get a different reading. I know from having the machine parked this way enough that that's where it should be. It should read full when I've got it in the check position. Let's go. Little glow plug. I'm coming to the section of field where I hit a lot of rocks on the other trench, so we'll see. Look at this alfalfa root. That's why alfalfa survives dry spells so well. It goes way down there. Is too big for me to pull out, so I jogged the trench. Hey, did you hear about the pharaoh who wouldn't believe he was drowning? He was in denial. Day 3. Job 1 is to get things ready for dinner. 4 sheets, no more, no less. Today should be the short day. I've made it most of the way up the field. My goal is to get to the winter pasture fence right here, and then my outlet pipe trench will be done. You probably can't see it very well on camera, but there's a flat area at the top of the field I'm working in toward the winter pasture, and then a fairly steep slope down, and then it levels out. Well, all the rocks, the giant rocks, the car-sized rocks, are at that slope in a stripe across the field. But as I come over here to where I relocated the trench to, that slope kind of gradually dies down, blends in, and there's a glacial hill there that's full of small rocks. I kind of cheated between the big rocks and lots of small rocks, and it was pretty easy digging once I got through the portion there. At this point, I've come onto level land. It even back slopes a little bit as we come down into the winter pasture, and my trench is at about 5 foot deep. So I'll be sloping it. It'll gradually be getting shallower as I come into the winter pasture. Frost depth where we are in New York is 4 feet, so I'm well below it with this portion. But storm drainage, which field tile is a part of that classification, doesn't need to be below frost depth. Down at the far end of my trench where it kind of levels out, it's about 2 feet below grade. The principal concern with field drainage is that you want to keep it below tillage depth. So as farmers are going deeper with chisel plows and things like that, sometimes they're burying field tile 4, 5, 6 feet below grade. But as long as the field tile has a continuous slope to it, you don't need to worry about freezing because water is always flowing through it, and water will always flow through it. There'll always be something going through it. You just want to make sure that it's not flat. When I was an architect, we did plenty of parking lot sub-drain systems, hookups for storm drainage in the city, a lot of lines. even in the cities, aren't below frost depth. From here on, this trench is going to run at about a 1/16 inch rise per foot, or to make things round, a 1/2 inch rise every 10 feet. And I'll have to go back through and do a little fine grading by hand when we lay the pipe, but I'm getting it pretty close right now. Gotta get the fire started. Dinner is coming. That's it, all the way to the winter pasture fence and the yelling cattle. I'm at about 4 feet or a little less than 4 feet depth here, so that gives me plenty of slope coming in and going around. And it had to get a little funky there at the end, digging from the diagonal to finish the trench. Be quiet, you guys, I'm trying to talk. 6 chunks of hickory from the wood pile. No more, no less. And 1 plunk, just a few acres farm chicken, about 4 pounds. About an hour and a quarter, she'll nap in there. The excavator worked well. I didn't have any problems at all with it. Put fuel in it, check the oil, grease it. Everything works as it should. It's small, so it took me a while to dig that. I think there's 310, 320 foot of trench there. Most of it's around 5 feet deep, so that's a lot of digging. There's really 3 main parts to the work. The first part is the outlet pipe that I dug for now. That's a solid pipe. Part 2 is putting this actual sub-drainage in the winter pasture, and part 3 is regrading that area where the outlet pipe lets into, so it'll hold water without kind of spilling over into the field. The next job, of course, is to lay the outlet pipe in the trench that I dug backfill that trench so I can clean that field up. But that'll wait for another day, won't it, Ezra? Yes. Chicken's done. Simple chicken on the grill. I've probably made this hundreds of times. We eat it with a dipping sauce. It's been a long week. I'm ready to take a day off and then start putting the pipe in the trench. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time.